Welcome back. So this chapter is all about our workhorse, and that's the lathe. This is mine, this is my station here, and I'm showing it in this kind of format, point and shoot camera style. I think it probably shows a little bit better details and everything that I want to point out. So if I focus during the video or change the exposure, you know why, and trying to get the best picture as possible. Yeah, so lathe is, what is lathe? So lathe is just a way to spin the piece of wood. Some basic parts of the lathe are, we can start from the headstock. So this is headstock. It has a spindle, motor. There are some pulleys under here, under this cover, and some other parts. This is banjo, tool rest, and tailstock. So this is movable part, so you can unlock it, slide it wherever you need, depend on the type of work you're doing. Now some lathes obviously have legs, others are bench mounted, and this particular lathe has an inverter down there, and it has variable spindle control box here, and it has a reverse function as well, so that's always a nice feature to have. So this is coordinate region from Record Power. It has a label here, it has labels everywhere. Okay, so it's 18-inch swing. So what that means, so that's from the spindle point, the center, to the bottom of the bed base, the maximum diameter you can turn on the lathe. So this is 18 inches, so I can turn 18-inch ball or platter, whatever. Now it does have a feature where you can unlock this lever here, and you can spin the headstock. Now on that feature I rarely use, actually, to be honest. I've never used it because it's hard for me to find customers for something that is 18 inches diameter, let's say a bowl, salad bowl. Everything like up to 14 inches is probably good enough in terms of size. So just, I mean, if I rotate the stock, then I could with the outboard, which it attaches behind the lathe here, I could turn 1 meter, 1000 millimeter diameter, which is, I mean, absurd. But it does have that feature. That feature also maybe helps if you rotate it just slightly, you can sand or hollow something easier, but I don't like that feature. I don't like moving headstock too much around, because you can get dirt underneath the bed base and the headstock, this part which lays down, and it doesn't always sit properly, and then you can get vibrations and everything. So I just lock it in place and be done with it. This has 2 horsepower motor, which is plenty strong enough for this capacity of the lathe. It's from Record Power. It's their like premium. It's top of the line. So there's Envoy, which is 1.5 horsepower motor, I believe, and I mean, they're both pretty much similar apart from the swing size. So this has variable speed, so inverter, sorry, it's down in that box, so I can adjust the speed accordingly wherever I'm turning. And I have I'll show you a bit later here inside the pulleys. 140 kilos heavy, which in my mind for a lathe is actually too light. I don't like when it can vibrate too much or stuff like that. So even on my previous lathe, which was bench mounted DML 320, also from the Record Power, I also had it mounted on the bench, and that bench was mounted to the concrete. And in this case, I actually bolted down to concrete this lathe as well, and it's just like earth and sky difference, because you reduce a lot of vibrations with that, and you can spin it a little bit faster, which is always a good thing. Not obviously too fast, but according to the size of turning, which we will discuss a little later in the chapters. So the lathe cannot be too heavy, so you can either put like a shelf underneath and load it up, whatever you can do to put more weight on it. It's a great option. You as a turner, as a beginner turner, what do you look for in the lathe? So first of all, obviously, is the budget. You don't have some sort of a budget which you have to follow. It's either for wife or justify the cost, but nevertheless, budget is the one priority that you have to keep in mind. The other thing that I'm always looking for when I'm watching the lathe, or was watching, that is the cast iron construction. So this has everything cast iron apart from the spindle, not the spindle, the quill material is sort of a steel, I'm not sure which, and some of the basic parts are not obviously cast iron, but majority of it is cast iron, and that reduces vibration for quite a bit. So the very cheap lathes that are aluminum or some sort of steel which isn't cast like iron, can induce a lot of vibration, and you'll get really lousy experience from that lathe, and you'll like be disappointed. And maybe it's not your technique, maybe it's not what you're doing at the lathe, but the lathe itself is, there's no better word to say but crap. So also weight, like I said, you can't have it too much weight on it, so the bigger the better. Variable speed is also a nice feature, so you don't have to change the pulleys all the time. So now these days all lathes pretty much come with some sort of a wheel that you can adjust the speed to your liking, and not change the pulleys inside. Now I'm just going to show you here the pulleys, which basically all the lathes have it, apart from DVR Nova lathes. I believe they have some sort of different system, and you can see here. So we have this is pretty much always keep it on the middle pulley, and you have a diagram here. These pulleys are for changing the power to speed ratio. So what that means, now I have it currently on the middle pulley, and in that range I have from 550 to 1650 RPM range, and it's like in the middle of the power output torque that you get from the motor, and you can vary the speed through the through this wheel, this knob, and set the speed in that range, which I have it here. So like I said, I'm mostly keeping it in the middle because the range of speed I have, that's pretty much the highest that I go. I don't have the need to go higher. I don't turn, even if I turn small pieces, that's quite fast enough. And I got quite a lot of torque for big balls. Now if you're wondering, for some of you that have this kind of lathe, what is this here? Now probably not sure if it's just my lathe or every lathe, but when I bought it, this plastic cover was even when it's tightened down all the way, it had a gap here like almost 2 mil, and you couldn't close it all the way. And as I'm sanding here, the dust collection is here. All the dust probably end up in the motor, in the pulleys inside. So what I did immediately, I had this, it's quite convenient, it's in green color, this double-sided tape, which is like a foam, padded a little bit. So I put 2 layers on perimeter here, and now when I screw it, bear with me, it seals the edge quite nicely, and I have 0 dust basically inside. So that's something that I need to do. Okay, so that's something that, like I said, not sure if it's just my lathe or not, but it's, I don't know, they maybe could have done something a little bit better here, but it is what it is. I'll deal with it. So for this sort of lathe, this price range, I don't think you can have more powerful lathe, or the same at least horsepower range, which is 2 horsepower, for the same price. Now some of the features and some of the things are slightly in the budget. You can see that it's lower, like in budget, like for instance from the maybe Jet or KS lathe, the Stratos lathe, which are a little bit more polished edges, let's say like that. But for this price range, this is cheaper from those competitors, so they, I guess, have to save on some of the details. So what you're looking in the lathe, that is, if you have a possibility to see it before you buy it, then obviously you want to check if everything is nice and smooth, that everything works nicely. So this lathe, this tailstock has a self-ejecting revolving center, this. So if you unwind it, it can pop out. What you're looking is that everything slides nice and easy. That is, once it's unlocked, that you don't have much room to play, so it's really nice and tight. You want the banjo that slides nice and easy, probably you want with one hand operation. One of the best locking levers, I believe, that I've ever tried. Now most lathes now these days and chucks have adapters, so the thread size isn't all that important. This is M33 by 3.5, I believe it's called. It's standard pretty much now these days on every chuck and every lathe, so works great. Okay, so that's roughly about the lathe, some of the components, some of the parts what you have to look for in the quality in quality lathe. I forgot to mention lathe height, which is also quite important. So this lathe came with rubber feet, which you can adjust. Now I'm average height. I'm 180, 179, something like that centimeters, which is like 6 feet or 5'11", something like that. And when I did those, when I put on these feet, the lathe was too high for me. What I'm looking for is on this spur drive, the center to be at the height of my elbow. So I'm relaxed. I measure the height of up to the elbow, and that's the height of the lathe I want to be. And you don't have to hunch over, you don't have to like bend over, you know, any awkward position. So you're nice and comfortable if you're doing long hours at the lathe. There is like you know, if you ask a turner what to get for your first lathe, you'll get really, if you ask 10 of them, you'll get 20 opinions, and that's okay. Everybody has an opinion. This is mine, and I'll tell you why I think it's that way. So my recommendation for buying your first lathe, if you're a beginner or if you have a zero experience with turning wood, would be to go a small but the best quality you can afford. So what I mean by that, now most of turners will say go big, buy as big, because you can you can on big lathe you can turn small stuff, but you can't turn big stuff on the small lathe, and that is true. I would agree with that terminology, but I would not recommend for anybody to start their first bowl, their first project on the lathe, start learning with like 18-inch bowl. It's not great. Something bad will eventually happen, because at that size the things are changing, the speed is changing, the you know, like approach, you have to be aware it's big hunk of wood, so it's not same as like 5-inch diameter bowl and 18-inch diameter bowl. So I'm going to tell you my thoughts behind when I bought my first lathe, which was that benchtop DML 320 record power. I was looking for another one. Not sure about the name. I forgot the name of the company. It's nothing like known or anything like that. It was bigger than the record power one, bigger capacity, similar size to this one, but it was actually only like 10 kilos heavier than the record power one, and that one is much smaller than that one, because that big one, which I was looking for when I bought mine first, had a steel base, and some of the parts were not cast iron, and the motor was a little bit less power than even on that small record power one. Now when I compared those two, I was like immediately agreed on that the record power one was better in almost every situation, apart from the size. So, but even then, on that the capacity is 12 inches on the record power one that I bought, and that's plenty enough for most people, most families, like salad bowls and stuff like that. And I maxed out that lathe. I used it for almost 4 years, like on average 5 to 6 hours a day, every day almost. Big stuff, small stuff. I mean, that lathe is a beast. So I'm actually quite sorry that I had to sell it to buy this one. it would be better if I could keep it and have it like teaching lathe, something like that. So, but it is what it is. So my thought is go the best quality you can afford. So all cast iron, biggest motor to correspond with the size of the lathe. So not big lathe, small motor and stuff like that. So you can go small lathe, big motor, but don't go big lathe, small motor. And that's basically it. Just you know now what to look for. Cast iron. Don't settle for any of these like Harbor Freight in America or Bauhaus here in Croatia, or I don't know, Home Depot stuff, mark brand lathes which are cheap, steel, aluminum frames. It's just lousy experience to have. You will actually have worst experience. Mostly it may not be your technique, but it will be delayed. It will rattle, it will vibrate, you will having difficult time to rev it up to certain safe speed, because it will rattle, it will make noise, it will vibrate. You just can't do fine work on cheap stuff like that. Now you know me by now that I'm all for like homemade stuff, made your own tools and stuff like that, but don't cheap out on and settle for those lousy materials on the lathe. So you can pick up a nice quality cast iron lathe from Jet, Record Power, like mini lathe, or mini or midi lathe, or something in between. So from Laguna as well. So there are these are excellent lathes. Stratos as well has excellent lathes in all ranges and price and size and motor size and everything. And I mean, you just don't settle for lousy lathe, because you will have a lousy experience with it. Like I said, in most cases it won't be your technique as much, and at least with quality lathe you can eliminate the lathe as sort of a fault for it. Then you know it's tool control, grind, or something in those area. Yeah, so that will be on the lathe. Hopefully it's sort of a little bit at least clarified, and don't forget to ask any questions so I could answer them in Q&A format as well, if they're longer or more difficult to write at least. So yeah, see you in the next chapter.